Hello, everyone. Welcome to a Super Saturday of the live ones. It is NFL Division Card Weekend. As you can see, we've got a lot going on over here today, a lot to go over. I'll just start with the recap. It was bound to happen sooner or later. The hot streak was going to snap. We did take the collar yesterday. We did go 0-4. Those days happen. There were a lot of unforeseen things that were going on. We are still up massively for the week and for the month. We've got a great slate on tap for today. You can see, we've got 10 plays over here to get to. Not going to waste any more time, just going to go right ahead and get to them. And we're going to start off with the NFL playoff games. And the one that I find the most interesting today is the Bengals and the Titans. This game opened up at Tennessee -3, and it was a layoff for me. The Titans are the least dominant-looking number one seed I can remember seeing in a long time. Their secondary is abysmal, getting torched over this season by the likes of Davis Mills, Jimmy Garoppolo, Mac Jones, and Trevor Siemian, among others. Their passing game is 24th in the nation, despite having A.J. Brown and Julio Jones, and missing Derrick Henry for the majority of the season. Ryan Tannehill has managed to hit only one of his receivers for more than 500 yards on the year. He's been pedestrian at best under center this year with 21 touchdowns to 14 picks. Definitely has used his running game like a security blanket. They're hosting a Bengals team that finished about as strong as you could have wanted down the stretch. They won 4 out of their last 5 with some absolutely dynamite performances against Kansas City, Baltimore, and Las Vegas. What do they all have in common? Weak secondaries. Enter Joe Burrow, he of the 34 touchdowns. Burrow's connections with his receiver core this year have been out of this world, particularly with Jamar Chase. If the Titans are going to have any hope of containing him, they have to control the clock and keep him off the field as much as possible. Getting Derrick Henry back might help with that. We just don't know what he's going to look like today after such a long layoff. He's definitely the X factor of this game. Whatever the case, I absolutely think the Bengals could win this game, and it wouldn't be that much of an upset. They absolutely should be able to keep it close, even if they do lose. So when you're giving me more than a field goal with them, which is what the lines move to, I have to take it. Give me the Bengals +4 today. Moving on to the other game, the 49ers and the Packers. And you don't want to use a game against the Dallas Cowboys at any point after Week 10, at any point in the last 25 years as a measuring stick. But man, oh man, did the 49ers ever spank Dallas last week. Yes, the final score was close. Yes, it came down to last-second play. But it just doesn't reflect how much the Niners utterly dominated the Cowboys up and down the field for 3.5 quarters, then just basically played prevent and let the Cowboys have some mercy points. This defense is really something to behold. 7th against the run, 6th against the pass, 3rd overall in the NFL. Just all 11 guys contribute, no weak links to exploit. The Packers, yes, they went 13-4, had the number 1 seed wrapped up by Week 17, but it's all been on the back of Aaron Rodgers. The man is playing absolutely out of his mind once again this year. No matter what you think of the man on a personal level, he is absolutely the best quarterback in football today, and it's clear he is bigger than the Packers. It's just God's honest truth. I mean, the things that he's been able to do with Alan Lazard, a receiver who wasn't even drafted, make him look like $1 million, the way Peyton Manning used to make Pierre Garçon and Marcus Pollard look like $1 million. The real elite quarterbacks can do that. They can take random guys off the streets, slap some pads and a helmet on them, tell them to just run wherever you feel like. I'll get the ball to you, and you'll get him 800 yards and 6 touchdowns over the course of a season. These two teams did play each other in Week 3, and Rodgers didn't really seem to have a problem scoring on the Niners, but he did need to come from behind and drive down for a last-second field goal to win it, as the Niners' offense was able to carve up the pedestrian Packers defense. The Niners, believe it or not, have the 7th-ranked offense in football. They're not that far off the Packers in terms of quality. And with the Packers having rested their starters in Week 18 plus the bye last week, this is going to be the first time that first team's played game-time reps in 3 weeks. They're going to be off their rhythm. I think the 49ers have what it takes to keep this game close, even in defeat. You're giving me almost a touchdown spread here. I'm taking it. Give me the 49ers +6. So moving on to the world of college basketball. Huge day today, 137 Division I games being played today. And we're going to start off in the Big Ten and with Minnesota and Rutgers. Rutgers is off a huge home win over Iowa. They're 5-2 in Big Ten play. Minnesota is 1-5 in the Big Ten and has lost 4 in a row. So why is Minnesota the favorite here today? For starters, Minnesota has been a completely different team away from home. 1-5 on the road. Rutgers has been a completely different team away from home. They're 1-5 on the road, both straight up and against the spread. Also, strength of schedule. Minnesota's losses have included 2 games to Michigan State, Illinois, Indiana, and Iowa. The Big Ten is just a stacked conference, folks. Minnesota's also in must-win mode right now, sitting at 10-5 and trying to keep their chances at a tournament bid alive. I think they come out as strong as they possibly can today. Look for them to have a big first half that puts Rutgers in a hole that they have to climb out of. It's basically Rutgers' MO at this point that they have to play from behind in the second half. I think law of averages plus Rutgers being on the road catches up with them today, though. I think it's a tight game, but I give the Gophers the edge as the home team. Take Minnesota laying the single point today. Over to the Big East and Villanova and Georgetown. And if you were looking for any generous lines for Villanova as a road favorite after their upset loss to Marquette, you're not getting them. The Wildcats are a 14-point favorite on the road against an absolutely terrible Georgetown Hoyas squad. Seriously, I don't think I've ever seen a Hoyas team this sloppy, undisciplined, and just flat-out bad. I know Patrick Ewing lost a lot of last year's talent, but it's really a mark against his recruiting that he just didn't have a slew of guys ready to replace them. Georgetown is 6-9 on the season, losing its first 4 conference games by an average score of 84-67. Their defense has been particularly awful, allowing 76 points per game this season, 326th in the country. 11 of Villanova's 13 wins this season have come by double digits and by an average margin of 21 points. It has been beating up on the subpar opponents it's faced, and it could be in store for another one of those types of games today. Jay Wright is a freaking field marshal, which is why it's such a big deal every time Nova does lose a game because of mistakes. You know he's going to have ridden these guys extra hard, and everything will be cleaned up by this afternoon. Nova will feast today on this terrible Georgetown team. Expect a 20-point or better blowout. Give me Nova minus 14. Over to the SEC and LSU and Tennessee. LSU has now lost 2 in a row, and it's pretty clear that they simply cannot abide Xavier Pinson being on the shelf. But he's going to be out today with that MCL sprain against a Tennessee team that I honestly can't decide whether or not is any good, and neither can they, apparently. They hold South Carolina, admittedly a bad team, to 46 points, and then give up an insane 107 to Kentucky. They shoot 53% from the floor against Kentucky last Saturday, and then 34% against Vanderbilt on Wednesday. Consistency has been a really big problem for the Volunteers since conference play started. I'm taking a look at the total of 131.5 today. We know LSU's offense is practically non-existent, especially with Pinson out. They're largely a one-dimensional team that beats you on defense. That was on display against both Alabama and Arkansas in both of those losses. Really good defensive efforts, both of those games. But when you're only scoring in the low 60s every game, you have absolutely no margin for error. Tennessee is a below-average team overall on offense that thrives on its pace of play and the sheer volume of shots it takes. Where it particularly comes into play is in their free throw shooting, just a 68% team from the charity stripe. Combine that with LSU's great defense, and I think Tennessee's total is kept pretty low as well. I could see this being a 63-60 finish, somewhere in that neighborhood, so give me the under 131.5. Over to the ACC, UNC and Wake Forest. The blowout loss to the Hurricanes on Wednesday proved 2 things. One, I was wrong. The Miami hype train was not unwarranted. And the Tar Heels have a whole lot of problems on the defensive side of the ball when they play against teams that can actually shoot. It's easy to, this year particularly in the ACC, it's easy to overlook that fact that a lot of those teams are trash. North Carolina gives its opponents a ton of clean looks both from the floor and from the arc, and if they don't get that cleaned up, they're not going to get very far in the tournament because you know they're going to be there. They'd have to have like a 14-19 record for the selection committee not to put them in just based on the fact that they're North Carolina. Wake Forest is the definition of a balanced offense. They aren't elite level at any one thing, but they do every aspect of the offensive side of the ball pretty well. They should be able to score at will against the Tar Heels defense, which is going to force North Carolina to play at a quicker pace than they typically like to. The Tar Heels, take nothing away from them. They are a very good shooting team. So with that pace of play plus their high percentage shooting, I fully expect a very high total today, somewhere in the high 150s. So yes, give me the over 150 in this game today. And that's going to wrap up college basketball. Let's move on to the NBA. Short slate of games today. Only 3 games on the slate. But the one that I'm looking at today is the Suns and the Pacers. And fresh off a statement victory and with a perfect 5-game road trip behind them, the Suns are coming back home to host what should be a cakewalk game against the 17-29 Pacers, who are missing Miles Turner, T.J. McConnell, Domantas Sabonis, and T.J. Warren. This should be a game where the Suns can just go through the motions, right? Not so fast. Indiana just pulled off an overtime victory at Golden State on Thursday, one day after they won a road game against the LA Lakers. Even with all these key players missing, their offense has been really sharp the last couple of weeks. The Suns, I think, probably realize this, and they're not just going to have a walkthrough. This is a total of 220 that just feels insanely low. The Suns, with their third-ranked overall offense, playing against a depleted Pacers team, they're going to be able to get at least 120 of that or so by themselves. So you're looking to see, can the Pacers get over 100? Recent history suggests yes. Perfect road trip notwithstanding, the Suns still gave up 108 to the hapless Detroit Pistons, 107 to the Spurs, and 101 in that hard-fought last game against the Mavericks. I think this game comfortably gets over 220 tonight. Give me the over. So over to the NHL, and full slate of NHL on today. First game that I'm looking at is the Senators and the Capitals. This is a game between two teams that are very similar despite their wildly different records. The Caps have skated through a stretch of play where they've lost 6 out of their last 8 games while allowing 3.7 goals against per game. And it's not necessarily that the goaltending has been bad so much as the Caps' defense is giving up an insane amount of high-quality chances to their opponents. The Senators have a similar problem. Their second worst record in the NHL ahead of only the Canadiens, but their offense has not been a problem. They've put up goals and they put them up in bunches. They just surrender way too many chances on defense. Anton Forsberg, who's probably their best option in goal, has a respectable .907 save percentage in goal, but when you're allowing 40 shots a game, that means you're going to be giving up around 4 goals a game, and you're going to lose most hockey games doing that. The big picture view of this game is that these are two teams who can and do score, but they just give up way too many shots on goal for their goalies to be able to win games. That's a recipe for an over. Total is 6. Give me the over 6 goals today. If it pushes, no big deal, but we're hoping it wins. It definitely should not lose. So then from there over to the Predators and and the Red Wings. The Predators definitely had their get-right game on Thursday with a 5-2 win over the Jets. They snapped a 4-game losing streak. They're definitely going to want to keep the positive momentum going before they go off on their road trip. The Red Wings, meanwhile, are 5-14 on the road, where they're allowing just shy of 4 goals a game and getting outscored by 1.5 goals on average. To make matters worse, they're in a back-to-back spot off of last night's overtime loss against the Stars, so it's a virtual certainty that Alex Nedeljkovic is going to be resting tonight, meaning the AHL taxi squad goalie Calvin Pickard and his 3.01 career GAA is going to be in between the pipes tonight for the Red Wings. Nashville should win this game going away. I'm taking them on the puck line at -1.5 for the +110 value. And if last but not least, it is UFC 270 today. And the fight that I'm looking at is on the undercard. It is a Gennaro Valdez making his UFC debut as he's taking on the UFC veteran Matt Frevola. The fact that Frevola is taking on a debuting fighter right off of the Contender Series speaks to the degree which he's officially in the tail end of his career. Frevola has lost twice in a row now, including a shocking 7-second knockout at the hand of the last-minute replacement Terrence McKinney, who we should note was also making his UFC debut at the time, and he knocked out Frevola in 7 seconds. Valdez has a perfect 10-0 MMA record with almost an equal distribution of knockouts and submissions, no decisions. That's worth noting. This guy is a very aggressive, very strong fighter. I don't normally like taking guys coming off the Contender Series because I like to see, let them get a step up into UFC competition. But Valdez actually absolutely looked like he belonged among the UFC competition. We're going to see how far his career goes. Frevola's career, on the other hand, as a professional, seems to be coming to a very quick end. So if you don't have confidence in Frevola and you feel like this fight could go either way, like I do, you're getting great value on Valdez at +170 to win. I'm taking it. Valdez on the money line. That is it for me, folks. Everyone bet safe, stay safe. Follow us on Twitter at Live1Sports. Check us out on Roku and Fire TV at the Live Ones. Have yourselves a wonderful Super Saturday chock full of sports, and I will see you tomorrow.